Here we are. We're going to add ourselves to the stage. Good morning, Dad.
Good morning, Vietnam.
I love this song, don't you?
Oh,
Ramble on.
where do you get these songs from?
Radio.
Newfound things.
No, I got a subscription, so we played a little bit there. But as a kid, who's your earliest inspiration for music? Or not inspiration, but song. What song did you like when you were like 10 years old? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was actually, I remember standing in the kitchen and my dad said, how can you listen to that music? And the song that was playing, I know this specifically, it's funny, is One-Eyed, One-Horned, Flying Purple People Eat.
Well, that's a good one. I do like that one.
Remember
Well, I
that?
don't like it, but it's funny.
Isn't that
Catchy.
funny?
Yeah.
Now, I was standing, it was like you said, about 10 years old. I was standing there, and my dad said, how do you listen to this damn music? And,
What did he say?
he just walked out of the room.
What did he, okay, let's go back even further one
Sure.
step. What did he like? Do you know what kind of music he listened to?
No, my dad liked baseball. And unfortunately, we get to this point in life where I wish I would have talked more to my dad. I never had an opportunity like this. And this is one of the holes we're trying to figure out how to fill in life, is that you asked me before I die, not after I die or afterwards, or saying, gee, I wonder if I would have asked him that question. Well, just remember, folks, this is a show you can ask that question, even if it's just out loud. You can say it to us. If your dad or relatives hears it, hey, let them hear it, but at least you try.
What is one question you would ask him now? If you could talk to him right now, what would you ask him?
I would say, Dad, what do you think of life? And what do you think are the pros and cons? I mean, that's such a beautiful question that could be asked a million ways, but do you retrospect, you don't want to get to that point. That's the whole point of this show. Talk to the generations ahead of you. They know so much more, and don't take everything as an argument to begin with. Do not go into the premise that whatever they say, I'm going to argue with. And that's a shame that befalls all
I'd
of
like
us.
to debate that, though.
Oh, sure. Well, that's the whole idea.
Just kidding. I just wanted to argue that.
I know. No, but actually we do have that debate every day, just as like you have it with your daughters, and your daughters have children. So I'm a great grandpa. But the older you get, you wonder, not only do the less you know, but do the less influence you have strictly because of your age. And it's a forever question. And there's many answers as there are people alive. Thank you. That's available for $9.95 on a CD or VHS. If you like looking at my mug.
Do you have a VHS player anymore?
Oh, shut up. You used that joke so dang many times.
What?
That's got fur on it.
See, you never can answer one question. There is not one time. Maybe the viewers can, as they watch, tell us when you answered one question directly. Okay, let's try it again with your favorite
what was the question again?
What color is this pick?
I'll hold it a little bit to the right because it's blending in with your eyes.
See what I mean? That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem that we have to deal with. There's a couch.
Did you see Barbie?
Touch my stuff.
And don't tell me you saw it 10 times. I just don't hear that.
I have daughters. I'm proud that I did watch Barbie, and I am proud of that movie. And it looks, there were a couple dolls in there that you had when you were a kid, like the little oversized Barbie. And
these are the way Vietnam veterans treat life. Way by sticking pins in dolls, because
is that true?
No, the interesting part of being in Vietnam.
Well, we're getting to that. Okay, we didn't even start to that. All of a sudden, you just jump to things whenever you feel like it, don't you?
Well, I was getting tired of what you were talking about.
No, so I'm like the interesting one, and your stuff is just kind of the fringe, the extra, like the fat on the steak. Right?
Yeah, that plays
icing on a cake or fat on a steak. What do you like better?
Well, I don't know. You got both, so you have to answer that for me.
See, this is my point. I said let's have a name calling session every episode where we see how long we could go, kind of like dad jokes. But you said that's too mean. But then you throw zingers out at me every once in a while just to rip on me, and And my weight, I have a weight issue.
Yeah, we've noticed. But what I'm trying to say,
Okay, this will be good. You never say anything, but you babble on and on.
I know. Well, see, now you threw me off track. I was thinking of something, but then I thought of something better, and then when you jumped in, it threw me off. So now I don't know what
Always
I'm
blame the
talking
kids. That's the thing.
about. Well, see, that's the thing. You do that. Everybody has to do that. Otherwise, you would not have a reason to be alive. You've got to blame the generation below you, and the generation below you has to blame you. So it's a cat fight where we're all biting each other's tail.
Great Sayings by Dad, rated R.
Hey,
It's
I
a book
still
available on Dumbazon.
I have that
Amazon.
toilet paper roll that has sayings on it.
You use toilet paper, not your hands. Did you know some cultures that's what they do is use their hands?
You live in America. So don't even use that excuse in this house. Otherwise, you'll be going to my neighbor's house for bathroom breaks.
Yeah, they don't even like you.
Well, that's true too.
Today we're going to talk about Vietnam. The other day, my dad and I had a great opportunity. It was Vietnam War Remembrance. 50 years since the U.S. pulled out. And what better to do than talk about it today, because I want to honor the veterans, especially of the Vietnam era, both stateside and families, but especially the people that were over there, like you, Dad. And I want to thank you for that. And we went to this ceremony. It was just beautiful. It was very quick because it wasn't the warmest of days, but they're becoming fewer and fewer attendees at this, aren't there?
It was a cold night.
Yeah.
I was sort of sweating.
So we're going to try to stay serious. Okay.
Hey, this is an excerpt from a war memorial that I'm making.
So first, let's tell everybody what you did in the Navy besides nothing. No, you were E3?
Yes, I was a CS3, which is a commissary third. Means on a boat I was on, you do a number of jobs. I was the cook. I was also, but I wasn't like John Claire Vaughn, where you beat everybody up on the ship.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I wasn't like that. I wasn't that kind of a cook.
I don't even know his name. Okay.
Well, I'm not done yet. I did other things.
Okay, that's great. But he was on a minesweeper. We got to get into more details. Not just general.
I was the gunner.
Boat. He was not just on a boat. It wasn't a raft. He was on a minesweeper. What did minesweepers do? We have to.
Did you go to school? A minesweeper.
A lot of people don't know what that is.
Well, they sweep mines. Okay.
And not cleaning sense.
They don't clean the mines.
Enemies used to put underwater mines that would blow up, and so you would go through
World War II,
find those so the bigger ships wouldn't hit them.
Yeah, and so we have cutters. So if they were attached to the ground, and our ship was all wood, by the way, 150 feet of a wooden ship.
They had magnets right on the mines.
Yes, they did, which would hit a destroyer or all these other ships and blow them up. So we were completely wood. As a matter of fact, in the middle of the ship, we had a degaussing locker, which you would put everything from a radio to your watches, everything in the degaussing locker, so the metal mines wouldn't pick us up. And then we would come in close and we would cut the wires holding them to the ground. And then I was the gunner on the front with the 20 millimeter foot-long shells. I had a guy on my right. He was the trainer. I was the pointer. I had a red pedal. When he was training and I was pointing, we got on spot. We both had our own target finders. And when we got to that, I would fire and I blew up mines. These are the same guns that we used over in Vietnam when we went over there in the Mekong Delta. We fought with the Marines, and
we fought with them. Against them or with you were with the Marines
against them in the
Viet Cong, and who did you?
Yeah, we fought against the Viet Cong. Obviously, we fought with the Marines.
But you didn't take the minesweeper in. That you went on a PBR.
No, we took the minesweeper in there.
Right on the.
Yeah, we pulled that minesweeper within 100 feet offshore.
Oh wow!
And then I used the big cannon to blow it apart.
Oh, I see.
And that's where 40 Marines had been killed the night before. Yeah. That's why we went in, and we had laid 6 30s along the deck and 2 50s. So we had 2 50s, but I had the big gun. I had the 20 millimeter, and I just blew the
50 or 20.
No, there 50 calibers were on the O2 level.
I thought you were.
And I was on the forecastle, which is on the front of the ship, and I had the 20 millimeter. It's a cannon. It's a big cannon, and so I fired that into the VC, and the guys opened up the whole shores. And you've never seen a 4th of July when it looked like people shooting and firing. And
what went through your mind? You're an 18-year-old kid, 19. How old were you when you went in?
I was doing this. I was either 18 or 19. I was over there twice. And so we picked up, that's how old was I when I wore a bulletproof vest, and then you would come in and they would turn the lights on red an hour before we went out to keep your night vision, because we went in as a retribution for what they did to the Marines.
Now, when we were at the ceremony the other day, you got to talk to other guys. What would you talk about with them?
Well, what I've done is I go to usually dying veterans, and I'm doing it for Tidewell until I had too many things wrong with me, but talk to dying veterans. And when I wear my hat all the time, because veterans come up to me in Walmart or wherever, and we talk about, I use, and it's unlike me, but I let them talk about the parts of the war that they were most concerned with and how it can affect them today, which it does a lot.
What are the worst parts? Probably killing or taking another life was probably the hardest.
Well, the reason it was exceptionally hard for me was I had 2 years in the priesthood prior to going in the Navy, and then 2 years after the seminary. Well, then I'm killing people. Now, you learn for 2 years when you're a very young man not to kill people and to be a priest, and then a couple of years later you're killing people. That stays with you your whole life, and your whole life can depend on the way you feel about that incident, because there's no one that can ever take it away from you. Nobody can ever say to me this, or I can see a movie star looking at me and saying, well, I played that guy in the war, but hey, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. I picked up a I picked up a leg while we were picking up pieces of a C5 got shot down. I picked up the boot and the leg was still on it. And I picked up a letter from a guy's girlfriend, and he was on that airplane. And those are the things that stay with you your whole life. And how you deal with it is a problem that veterans have, and there's no amount of talking. The reason a lot of them will talk to me is because I'm a combat veteran, and this is a very difficult thing. You can't explain it to anybody. You can't watch enough movies. You can't look at your iPhone long enough and have any idea. It'd be like me saying, I know what it's like to have a baby. It's the stupidest thing you could ever say. Sorry for the diatribe.
That's okay. I'm used to it. But it is interesting, and why we repeat wars, and why we continue the fight for some idiots at the top that just want power and money and whatever, and then not the United States but other countries. And what's going on upstairs? It sounds like mom's cooking dinner or something.
Check it out. Make sure give some to the dog first, and check him a half hour.
I always
later.
do that. It's he's my tester. If the dog dies,
you learn that from
don't eat it.
Yeah, don't eat the dog. Yeah. Don't eat the dog.
Don't eat the dog. I mean, don't eat the food if the dog dies.
Don't eat the food if the dog dies.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. But the ceremony was great. It was just we need to remember these things. A lot of times people, and I don't know, there's a part of society that wants to try to forget all that, but if you forget everything, you reinvent the wheel. And so if we don't remember these wars and how serious these are, serious things. This is not, this country is great, and there is a price to pay, and we all know that, but people want to tear down statues and forget this and that, but then they reinvent the same things, because at the core, humans are the same. I mean, from the beginning of time to the end, we want love, food, water, life, and then we die. And the stories along the way and the memories that we make, those are the great parts. But when the war comes in, we're fighting wars, especially like Vietnam, or even nowadays with Ukraine. I mean, these things, why are we doing this? And even Gaza, I don't know where it ends, and I don't think it ever will. But going back to Vietnam, and you were over there, and the interesting part that I thought too, we talk about hypocrisy a lot, but when you came back to the States, when you were done the second time, when you're done for good, what did you see when you came back to the country that you fought for?
Well, the country I fought for was still here, but the way that the the information's put out to the point now. The people treated us, and when they say badly, the specific things for me when they threw away my college entrance, when I saw them throw it away. The interesting things that happen there, but there's a deep-seated love that Americans have. That's why it's still there. So that's why 2 years after I got out from Vietnam, I joined the police department, because the only thing you can do is put more on the table than you take off. And policemen, at the base of its heart, are great men and women and the greatest part of society. And now I used 20 years on the police department to try to pay back for killing in Vietnam. I never killed anyone. I never wanted to. I've been at the wrong end of a gun more than once. And why I was spared, I like to think it is to maybe tell you stories about having a shotgun put at your head and different things.
We're probably going to have a whole episode about that someday, but let's get back to Vietnam.
And then, and
again, he drifts and never answers a question. So when you came back, then just the public sentiment wasn't that great. A lot of it. I mean, there were a lot of people, I still would imagine, but I heard during the speech at the ceremony we were at that the commanders, the COs and stuff would tell the people, hey, when you go back, just wear civilian clothes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I never listened to them, but I felt it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wore my uniform and I was proud of my medal that I had. And coming back alive and through all the gore, an 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that age should not be killing people, and they shouldn't be. They talk about what they're subject to. It is not the same as on a iPhone or anything. Being in Vietnam, people can't say, well, they say, just forget about it.
You can't. No, it's a big traumatic thing that changes your life. And especially at that age, like you said, when you're 19, that's formative years still. And that's probably why they recruit a lot of people at that age, because you don't know any better sometimes. And
well, the saving grace for coming back and getting slapped in the face was that I had your mother. If I wouldn't have had your mother, I could have never survived till this day. But that kind of thing is what, when the guys came home, if they couldn't find the love that they needed, they end up on the streets, they ended up on druggies, because it's constantly been there thinking, if that hadn't happened to me, if I hadn't had to experience that, I could have been something else.
mm-hmm.
And this is what veterans are searching for each day, but they're not going to listen just to anyone. They want to make sure you know what it feels like to be on that wrong end. And if you can, maybe you can break through the shell I have. But remember, it can be 30, 40, 50 years old and so down deep that you never will get to them. So give them something that helps.
I think that's important to always thank people for their service. There's about 1% of our society actually joins and serves in the military. I think that those were the numbers and stuff I heard. And it's amazing, but we have to do it because humans are humans, and part of humanity is the greed and the negativity that we have to fight. Otherwise, if we don't keep that in check, evil, if you want to keep it at a basic level, it can overtake.
Yeah, and it's so forgotten sometimes, son, that you can come out of school with all these high ideals about let's live in the nirvana and everything can be just, it's the flower society. Now, this is it's something that gets repeated all the time, is that back in the 60s, you hear a lot about the flower child and all the things that are going on, but it's nothing different than what's being repeated now with the universities and the people saying, we have better ideas. And they come up with these ideas that look good on paper, but they aren't realistic when you're at the wrong end of a bullet or you're facing a real fight or flight situation. These are what young men are going through. And then now you get around to why I move so much. The level that my mental experience will go from fighting in a war and being in combat and then fighting on for 15 years as a street cop is why my anxiety level goes up and down so much. I'm used to fight or flight all day long on that job. And so when I got done and got hurt so bad and I got 4 rods from a broken back, and now I can't reach that same height. So your mother and I travel all over the United States. We were actors in Florida. We flip homes. It's that high anxiety that I need and I chase. And that's the reason. It takes me till I'm 80
That's
years
interesting.
old.
That's actually a really good. I haven't heard that version before, and that makes a lot of sense. And we all do what we have to do to cope. And luckily, you chose. I mean, you could have turned to drugs or illegal drugs and things like that, but you didn't, and so that's good. I appreciate that, and staying strong for your kids, my brother and I, and we appreciate that very much. Yeah, war is definitely not a good thing.
Well, this is
this. And
I just like to interject now. We lost his brother Brendan, but Adam and Tony and Brendan and your mother was the whole reason that I got through the whole Vietnam thing. It's the whole reason I was able to get through the cop thing is because of them. So the idea, folks, is you want to make a strong base. And Tony said it before, is that communication thing between things. Don't waste your time trying to figure out all the nuances of how people act. So somebody says the wrong thing one time, you got to have a red line that's pretty far out there. You don't want to be redlining every time somebody looks at you wrong and does that. And I think if you get back to what Tony talked about that communication, don't let that time pass.
And agreeing to disagree and all those
That's
mantras
right.
that we live by, and it's important, and we will continue to try to do that. And it's hard to practice that. There's no rule book on
That's
life.
right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
and so we learn from our elders, and it goes onward and onward. Some things that seem like reinventing the wheel, well, we got to learn how to change it. How do you change it? Only time can tell, and hopefully we evolve as a race, the human race. And yeah,
And without getting too deep on the subject, we have a lot of human experiences that go back, and Tony can talk about his, and I can talk about all the places we lived. We owned a church and a lot of things. Now, see, these are all the things that take your mind off. I found religion to be very fascinating and very enjoyable to learn about.
We'll have a podcast about that down the road here about different religions and how that changes through generations and has it changed as far as how people, how serious people take their religion and so forth.
But circling around, son, to the Vietnam thing is guys from Vietnam and stuff and everybody, a church is such a viable thing. What you want to do is Desiderata, the last line was, believe in God, whatever you conceive him to be.
Or her. Yeah.
Or her.
Yeah.
So whatever you think God is, believe in him. And then you can work that through your life. But that's enjoyable. And that's to be learned a lot. You want to be reinforcing those feelings that there is a bigger thing. Of actually don't have to worry about eating crow or being the wrong end of the argument sometimes. I mean, if you settle yourself and you settle your own being, the outside things will just be outside things.
And always remember the bigger picture. That's what life is about. The bigger picture. It doesn't have to always be about you. It's about the bigger picture.
That's right.
And sometimes the puzzle has to fit together somehow. And sometimes you may be wrong, you may be right, but agreeing to disagree, that's the key. And that's why I love this podcast. That's why I love talking to you every day about stuff and life. And we have so much more to go. We're going to have a guest, I think, on our next episode. This episode was dedicated to the Vietnam vets out there, both era vets and the people who were combat vets and served over there, which was you. And I appreciate that. And thank you for all you did. Very important. We unfortunately have to do that to keep this great country that's still an experiment, and we're trying to get better every year, every decade, through the many facets of from race relations just to human relations and everything in between. So we want to thank you for joining us again. Thank you, veterans out there. It was an honor to go to that ceremony a few days ago, and an honor to be with you here today, Dan.
Oh, thank you, son. I appreciate it. I appreciate it because you're one of the reasons that I am here today. Anyway,
well, you are the reason.
You are the reason I am.
You went to a party and you left without me, and my mom went home with me, I guess. So
yeah,
something like that. I think there's a joke somewhere.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this stuff a long time, and we finally have something that to say that is beneficial to society because we've walked the walk. We have the street creds. We can or can't give you advice on everything, but we're willing to try. Just remember, keep talking, even if you don't like what you're hearing.
Again, thanks for watching Father versus Son podcast. We love you all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
Yeah, I guess I better do this. Goodbye.
Good night.